let's dive into the latest from the world of the MCU. We already had a little bit of MCU news in the quick hits earlier in the show if you've been watching live, but now we're gonna dive into some stuff that is more MCU specific, Liz. So you are the big purveyor of, you're the big fan of the MCU here. So I want to start out by bringing this story to the fore. Marvel has apparently paused all development work on Nova, Strange Academy, and Terror Inc. They were all going to be TV series, but it looks like under Brad Vinderbaum, who's now in charge of Marvel Television and Marvel Animation, all three of those shows are no longer happening. I'm going to read a little bit of this article before we dive into the conversation. So this was an exclusive report in the Deadline yesterday where Marvel Television has paused development on those three projects I mentioned. The sources for Deadline stress that these projects were never officially greenlit. So we know Nova is probably the one that we've been hearing about the longest amongst those three, but none of them officially ever got a green light. Now they still could potentially be made at some point, but right now it just looks like they're shifting priorities. So I have a question for you, Liz. I mean, are you surprised that these three shows are no longer in active development? Do you think this is part of how Marvel is now doing things differently? Because if you remember, they were doing things by executive committee. They didn't have showrunners. And then, we obviously had a big mix of quality, like, a lot of good shows. Like you had Miss Marvel, you had WandaVision, but then you had some stuff that was really middle of the road, like Moon Knight, and then some stuff that people just outright hated or just didn't connect with. So they've had a mixed bag over on Disney Plus. Now that they sort of have shifted to a more traditional model where Brad Vinderbaum is bringing in showrunners, like we have a showrunner for Daredevil Born Again. In that kind of a television world, you get TV shows that go through development, even get a pilot and then don't get picked up. So do you feel like this is the start of Marvel kind of going in that direction where we'll hear about ideas, but not every idea is going to come to fruition, or they might just shelve it for a while? What are your thoughts on this news?
I mean, it's always a good idea to step back, regroup, rethink, restructure. So I'm not disappointed. I'm not mad. I'm not even necessarily surprised. They sometimes do a little too much, as we know. So if they're, kind of rethinking their upcoming projects and trying to make things the best that they possibly can, that's great. If they're doing it just simply because they're just not ready for them yet, also great. I feel like I'd rather them put things on hold or scrap them completely rather than rush the job. So, we'll see what happens. I anticipate Nova will definitely come to fruition. The other two, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. By the way, Angelica watching live asking the question, John, what was your number for your review of The Monkey? Do you care to add? John's not on camera right now, so I don't know if he stepped away, but I think in the live in our private chat for the show, John mentioned he gave it a 9.5 out of a 10. So he really loved the movie. But let's move on to the next story from the world of Marvel. Now, Liz, Captain America 4 Brave New World has now been out for about a week and a half. It's going into its second weekend at the box office. Julius Onag, was a first time outing for him with the MCU. He recently did an interview explaining all the cameos in the movie, what they replaced with the reshoots, defending even Harrison Ford, because there was a report out there from somebody who supposedly worked on the movie saying that Harrison Ford was a real diva, and he was just correcting the report saying, those reports are pretty much false. He was a wonderful, easy to work with, and he loved, just doing all the motion capture work, and he was enthusiastic. So before we dive into all of that, I wanted, since we talked about the movie earlier in the week and you weren't on the show at the time, but you have since seen Captain America 4, I want to get your thoughts on the movie, and then we can dive into a little bit more of what Julius Ona said.
Yeah, gang, I had been kind of naysaying this the whole time. I was not pleased with the clips that they sent out. I wasn't necessarily pleased with the timing of the trailers. I thought they kind of rushed everything last minute when they should have been advertising it more throughout all of 2024. But you know what, gang? I was pleasantly surprised. Marvel very rarely lets me down, and they didn't let me down with this one either. I left quite pleased. The biggest thing for me, though, and I mean, I know this is going to be kind of a weird thing to say. Harrison Ford came in because the previous actor that played General Thunderbolt had passed away, and unfortunately, I kind of kept forgetting who Harrison Ford was supposed to be throughout the film. Like they keep talking about I was a wartime general, all this history, talking about Steve Rogers, talking about they mentioned the Sokovia Accords throughout the entire film. And it's believe me, it's great. I'm really, really pleased they finally brought up, the celestial being from Eternals. They're slowly starting to connect into the X-Men stories. I'm glad that they're starting to really bring everybody together. And it's making me hopeful for the future. But I had a really hard time connecting to the story because I kept forgetting who Harrison Ford was.
Yeah.
No fault of his own, but I almost wish they just didn't replace that character. Like maybe they needed to obviously for the story. But it was kind of a hard sell for me to, put all of this history behind somebody who's relatively brand new. So that was my one thing. And then also the writing itself was just mid, gang. I mean, I said it before when we got that one little clip, of Anthony Mackie fighting that big dude. It reminded me of like really old school, like Marvel writing. It didn't have any kind of oomph. All of the jokes were mid. But I will say it's been revealed that Bucky's running for Congress, so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
One of the
there.
cameos.
Yes, so I'm looking forward to seeing. Is Thunderbolt's pre-campaign? Is Thunderbolt's post-campaign? Does he lose and say, fuck it, I'm just going to go fight people again? And so I'm interested about all of that. But I did enjoy it. I was pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed it. Fiona, that doesn't surprise me at all, quite frankly. You and I have very different taste in things. So I was happy with it. I got my shield, my popcorn bucket, my Captain America cup. And I got the little Captain America helmet. So
Brave New World.
Yeah, oh my God. Anyway.
Get out of here.
So
John, you have the popcorn
John,
bucket
you
too.
got a shield too, dude. Don't even act like, please.
Come on now.
You still gave them your money. I don't even want to hear it. So, no. So again, was it the best Marvel film ever? No, we knew it wasn't going to be. But you know what? Anthony Mackie did the damn thing, and good for him. And I'm looking forward to seeing him more as Captain America. I think he did a good job. So we'll see. I don't really care for this Falcon guy. But again, that's the writing's fault. It's not his fault.
Joaquin Torres, I enjoyed some of his stuff. He kind of gave it a bit of the humor. One thing I will say coming out of this movie, you've got some of the key players here in this image, and I think I want to kind of address what you said earlier. I struggled a little bit. I know all the details. Like I followed this franchise very closely, even though I'm obviously a big DC fan, but I'm also a big Marvel fan. And so for me, watching this movie, I knew who Thunderbolt Ross is as a character, and I knew that Harrison Ford was playing him. Right. I still, on an emotional level, had a hard time connecting the dots sometimes because
there was no connection. Yeah,
and it wasn't because I was confused necessarily. It was because this movie felt like it was connecting to the events of The Incredible Hulk, which came out all the way back in 2008. A movie that not a lot of people remember or saw back in the early days of the MCU. So, and then William Hurt played the character for so long that I think in all the big movies where we have seen him, William Hurt playing Thunderbolt Ross, it was in a secondary role. Like, he was one of the supporting characters in Civil War and stuff. He made like a cameo in Black Widow, but in all of those instances, he was never at the forefront. And so for a lot of people, they were like, wait a second. So that's the character that now Harrison Ford is playing. So you're asking him to make that one leap. The fact that they've changed actors. Remember when Don Cheadle took on, instead of Terrence Howard, next time, baby, Don Cheadle was like, I'm here. Let's move on. Like that was like 2 lines when he shows up in the courtroom in Iron Man 2. He's like, I'm here. I get it. Like that was like an in-jest way to address the fact that it's a different actor playing the role. But in this case, you're talking about people connecting the dots, not between Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2. You're talking about recasting a character that hasn't been a lead or one of the big starring characters in a MCU movie since The Incredible Hulk. Right. And we haven't seen him in a number of years. The pandemic has happened. Harrison Ford coming in. I think they did like one scene in this movie where there was like a press conference where he's got the mustache on there, and then they in dialogue addressed the idea that, oh, you lost the mustache, looks good on you, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But at the same time, I was like, maybe what they needed to have done, and it's a little controversial potentially because it might be like, are you erasing, the legacy of William Hurt and what he did with the character? But I feel like they needed to maybe give us a scene, or maybe even something, either like redo a scene where you replace William Hurt's version of the character, maybe from Civil War, for example, when he's in the room with the Avengers, and show that it was Harrison Ford there. So people are like, oh, he's that character? Like, because for a lot, like for yourself, even Liz, like you love these movies, you love the MCU, and you had a hard time sometimes connecting the dots. So
well, but again, that's the problem too, right? Like you were saying, if they replaced him in an older scene, again, there's a very good possibility that the majority of audiences have not seen that film or that TV show, or to catch that cameo and still make that connection, because Marvel has so many things, and they try to continue the story throughout. So that was a miss, but at the same time, there's nothing you can do. The guy died, and so other than that, again, it wasn't the best, it wasn't the worst. It was mid overall. I thought the action was pretty good. I thought the Red Hulk looked great. I dug him. So and I thought their action scene was pretty good. In the trailer, it made it seem like Harrison's Red Hulk threw the shield, and that's what destroyed the White House. And in fact, he actually used Anthony Mackie himself to destroy the White House. So I'm in the theater. I'm like, oh damn, like that was poor. But also at the same time, like, Anthony Mackie only has his suit, and his suit is not fully made of vibranium. I think it's just his wings that are, and the shield itself.
Well, no, so apparently the suit was made of vibranium, but
he doesn't have the super suit regardless.
No, but the guy he's fighting had like adamantium daggers, so he got through them, which was a detail that I found out after seeing the movie because it wasn't made apparent in the film. Anyway, and he had like Kevlar lining.
So it's like Batman being thrown through a movie, like through a building. Like, I don't care how much protection you have on, you're still a human being made of flesh and bone. So that kind of thing, I was like, Anthony Mackie should be dead right now.
He should have been, yes. Because the shield wouldn't protect you from like the shield will dissipate some of the force, but you're still gonna feel your bones getting crushed behind
around him a lot of the time to protect him, but still I was like, we're pushing it. I don't know. But it was just it was enjoyable. I was happy with it. So but the question is, so Thunderbolt Ross, what does he have to do with Thunderbolts? Why has no one tried to make that connection this whole time? Because we've heard.
I was really hoping that there would be some sort of connecting tissue at the end of this movie. The post-credit scene here doesn't really do that. It more or less
which is again why I'm questioning
very ominously the future of the multiverse instead, which very generic.
That's why I'm questioning whether or not the Thunderbolts comes before Bucky tries to run for Congress or after. But then also he keeps making reference to wanting Anthony Mackie, wanting Captain America to restart the Avengers. So are the Thunderbolts gonna eventually be joining the Avengers? Are they gonna be the B Squad? Are they gonna so there's got to be some connection there.
I mean, it depends on how many of them survive to make it to the Doomsday movie, but I will say in the Thunderbolts trailer you do see Bucky wearing like a suit and tie at some point. So I guess at least at the beginning of the movie he's still running for Senate, which is quite the turnaround for him, from going from being a wanted fugitive all across Europe to now running for Senate. I guess we have seen crazier things in real life. So anyway, but what I will say is the movie had its moments. I personally, regardless of the overall movie falling short of my expectations, thought, and Angelica, for example, saying she's not even going to go see it in movie theaters. So, like, I'm sure a lot of people at this point are going to wait until it's in Disney Plus or something. But I thought, despite the fact that the movie itself was lacking in a lot of ways, I mean, some of the action was great, some of the action was not so great. The plot felt more put together than what a lot of people expected, given that this movie went through a lot of reshoots. But at the same time, it felt jagged is the word that I used to describe it to Fiona when we went to see it. But the other thing I'm going to mention, it had its moments, right? Like where the line where Bucky's cameo comes in, and this is where we can get into the Julius Ona article a little bit, talking about like, Steve Rogers gave them somebody to look up to, you give them somebody to aspire toward, which I thought was like a great way to differentiate the two Captain Americas, because until now Captain America has been partly being defined by the fact that he's a super soldier. And obviously, Sam did not take the serum. One of the best lines in the movie is like when he's fighting the Hulk, and spoiler alert for if you haven't seen the film, where he's like, Bucky's full of shit. I should have taken the serum. Bucky's full of shit. I did giggle at that quite a lot.
Well, let's talk about that as well. I don't know what this recent trend with Marvel is, but why are we, or movies in general, again, I had the same problem with Red One. they said shit or bullshit about 10 different times in the film. I'm not a fan of that at all. These are supposed to be family friendly films. Just because we're getting more okay with that word as a society, we don't need to be throwing it in there. I'm sorry. And this is coming from me, the biggest sailor you'll ever meet in real life. So I'm just saying it's unnecessary. Marvel, cut it out. Get better writers. Don't be throwing curses in there unnecessarily, because it's just dumb.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not going to trigger the MPA rating to turn into rated R if they say the
no, I know that,
bullshit,
but like regardless,
I hear you. I do.
It's unnecessary.
I mean, the
Captain America should not be cursing. Let's go there.
Remember the whole thing in Age of Ultron, like when the whole Avengers teased him for the English language anyway. But I think the Thunderbolts connection, like the Watcher was implying, because in the comics the Thunderbolts is like the team of Avengers in a manner of speaking. They're not really Avengers, but that is created by Thunderbolt Ross. Given that he's no longer the president at the end of this movie, again, spoiler alert. I think where we're headed now is potentially, like the Thunderbolts being like a derogatory term in a manner of speaking. And that's why in the trailer when Red Guardian says we should call ourselves the Thunderbolts, and Bucky's like quick to correct him, no, we're not calling ourselves that. I think that ties into more maybe the idea that Thunderbolts isn't meant to be we're gonna proudly accept that as the moniker of our team. But as far as these cameos go, there weren't many of them in the movie, and then part of what Julius Onis talks about in this article is bringing in Liv Tyler, returning to the MCU for the first time since the Incredible Hulk, to play the daughter of Thunderbolt Ross, and that was something that was at the core of the story. I just felt that it was done in a way that wasn't very well written, like you said, Liz. The movie didn't have the best dialogue, the best writing. Like he keeps his central motivation in this movie for Harrison Ford's President Ross is he wants to make things right with his daughter. And yet when it comes time to talk down the Red Hulk, Anthony Mackie's Captain America is the one doing it in the middle of the street where they wanted to, he wants to go take her for a walk in the cherry blossoms. And instead of having basically what they did in the theatrical cut of Justice League, where the nuclear option was Lois Lane to stop a Superman from killing Batman. Here they should have brought in Betty Ross to do that. Right. But instead, the totally missed opportunity. And you could tell they did reshoots there anyway. Like Anthony Mackie was clearly standing in front of the green screen talking him down. You could tell that in the shot, the background was fake.
Yeah. I agree with that for sure.
I thought that was a missed opportunity. They should have done that. That's one area where I was expecting all of that setup to have a payoff. Instead, she shows up later on in the raft prison where now Ross is inside. He's on the opposite side of the prison versus when he once upon a time put Sam Wilson behind bars, and now he's the one. So the irony wasn't lost on them. I like that connection that they brought the raft back.
Hey, the raft is cool. Yeah.
But to me, there were a lot of missed opportunities in this movie. But at the same time, one thing I did walk away from this movie with is totally believing that Sam Wilson is Captain America. Yeah, I think for 100%. All of the shortcomings of this movie, Sam Wilson, Anthony Mackie playing Sam Wilson, did an amazing job with what he was given. And I can buy that he is Captain America. He's still going to have a hard time at recruiting the Avengers because people were going to keep telling him, like Thunderbolt Ross does, "You're not Steve Rogers," again in the Harrison Ford voice. I'm sure a lot that was what he was told in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show. He's still sort of doubting himself in some ways, and I'm sure that's going to be continuing to be a part of his character until he does go through and fight with another alien army in Doomsday or whatever the case might be. It will also be interesting to see, because apparently we're getting evil variants of Avengers coming soon, whether he's going to come up against an evil variant of Captain America that does have the super soldier serum and that like an evil Chris Evans, Steve Rogers, where how does he fight Steve Rogers hand to hand? Can he beat him without the serum? So I'm interested in seeing where this character goes. He's going to be a big part of Doomsday. I enjoyed the movie overall. I thought it was still middle of the road, 6 out of 10. Yeah. So John is just
I would
in the chat, by the way.
I feel like that's my number too. 6.5 out of 10 probably. Again, not the worst, but a lot of potential to improve.
Yeah. Well, we have to move on to some other piece of Marvel news because we do have a couple other things to get into. So Daredevil Born Again is coming out soon, and we now know that Tony Dalton is returning as the swordsman in Daredevil Born Again. So I wanted to get your reactions to it because I'm sure both of you guys are interested in the show at least. I mean, I don't know, John, how interested you are, but I know, Liz, you'll be watching it for sure. So
I will.
Does this move the needle for you at all? Good. Given that the
John,
swordsman is coming back?
I will let you know, John.
I already got my boy telling me like, hey, bro, you got me on a bunch of other shit. Got me on Superman and Lois. You got me on, I think it might have been Cobra Kai. It might have been something else. Or no, he got me to watch this movie called Snack Shack. Both of them were excellent. I'm like, bro, you're 2 for 2 right now. So like,
well, fine then.
Just let me know if Daredevil. I trust him because he's like on like he's on his last rope with Marvel. So I'm like, all right, just let me know if it's good. He's like, I'll let you know if it's good. And you know what? We'll see. Like, I want it to be good. But I mean, Tony Dalton is an exceptional actor. Like his just role on Better Call Saul alone was just excellent. And I'm sure he was good in Hawkeye. Never watched it, but you know, I already fucking put it in there.
Hawkeye was enjoyable.
Quick question from Figure Drawing actually saying if this was a fleshed out series on Disney Plus, Captain America 4, that is, would that have been more befitting in hindsight now that you've seen it? I think Quantumania could have been dope if it was a TV show instead. I think Captain America 4 wouldn't have benefited from being a TV show.
Well, and he already got a TV show and it was mid. Like,
well, exactly. But what I would have benefited from, I think, it was less than 2 hours long. I feel like that's one movie where I'm like, that movie could have used an extra 20 minutes to flesh out the plot details a bit more because of the amount of stuff that the movie was filled with. I think
they should have fucking made a sequel to Falcon and the Winter Soldier instead of Incredible Hulk and Eternals. I think that would have been really good.
But they do have to address the Eternal storyline. They do have to start getting the X-Men characters involved. So in that regard, they did what the right thing because nobody else has addressed the Eternals since Eternals. So I'm glad that happened. But no, to answer that question, and I did answer it in the chat, I'm sick and fucking tired of the series. I'm sick and fucking tired of them. Have movies, because when they break up stories and then try to reconnect everything, guess what? You're not allowing audiences to access everything. Not everybody has Disney Plus. Not everybody's going to go see every fucking film that you put out. So stop breaking up the stories amongst all these various projects. There needs to be more consistency. I'm sick and fucking tired of them deciding, oh, well, this character is going to get a TV show this year, and then next year they're going to get a movie. Stop it. Stop it. I can't even keep up, and I'm a fan, and I like this shit. It's ridiculous. You save your Disney Plus projects for completely different films, completely different series, completely different shows that don't connect back to this. Kind of what DC is doing right now. And let these other people have their storylines. Stick to the movies, make the movies consistent, and then stream them on Disney Plus later on after they left the theater. Fine. But I'm so sick and fucking tired of them being wishy-washy and going back and forth about it. Cut it out. If Daredevil gets a movie, I'm going to blow my brains out. I'm going to be pissed off. Be consistent, one way or the other. That's all I got to say.
I mean, Charlie Cox would love to be in a movie. He wants that Marvel money.
Listen, I'm not mad about it. He has made appearances in other films. That's great. My point is, keep it consistent.
A Figure Drawing is loving your hot take, and the watcher in the chat was saying Daredevil is going to be good, and then also saying in his opinion, Falcon should have been capped temporarily for a Falcon and the Winter Soldier sequel season, and then have Sam go through an arc where it's too much for him. I don't know. Maybe they'll still do that. We kind of had
that in this film. We kind of had that in this film. I told you, Figure Drawing, I'm the biggest sailor you're ever going to meet. It's going to happen. We kind of had that where he's been questioning it ever since he was given the shield. So we've been there. We've had that thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we got KC in the chat now as well. So hello, KC. I'm excited to see where Daredevil Born Again goes because a lot of pressure on this show, a lot riding on it.
Everyone keeps making comments about Bucky getting the shield. Gang, Bucky is like Natasha.
His brainwashed.
He's got red on his ledger, babe. He's got red on his ledger. He's never going to be able to be Captain America with the history that he has gone through, regardless of how much he's redeemed himself, regardless of what a good guy he is in the end of the day, regardless of the fact that Steve Rogers vouched for him. He's got red on his ledger, babes. It's not going to happen. So stop it.
It's a good point.
We're going to still get him as Bucky, and he's got his shit, so who cares?
That's probably the reason why he wasn't. Yeah. I mean, the best pick, and that's clearly why he's in the Thunderbolts movie and Sam Wilson is not. Those two characters are taking two very different paths, even though they're still best friends, which like that we see in Captain America 4. Now, again, earlier we were talking about how Marvel has stopped development on the Nova series, but before they paused development, they apparently at one point in time wanted Austin Butler to play the Richard Rider character in the Nova series. I will say this, if they had Austin Butler in mind, that must have been for a movie, either that or it was before Austin Butler blew up to be one of the hottest names in Hollywood, because I do not see him signing on to just play Nova in a Disney Plus series right now. His career's on an upward trajectory.
Yeah.
He's shooting to the moon. So
100%.
Regardless of whether this Daniel RPK report was true or not at some point in time, I just don't think
He'll
as a
be
TV
Batman
show this would have
before he
been
does a
possible.
series. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah, I
agree
could
with
see him. I think he would have been a really good Richard Rider.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, just like I see him, I see his name, I'm like, just for some reason that clicks to me. I don't know why.
No, I would love
him,
to see him in the role. Does the guy have an accent normally? Because one of these days, I'd love to actually hear Austin's real speaking voice in any role that he's in. The poor man has been to more vocal coaches than anyone. But if they were going to make it a film, absolutely, I'm there. But I completely agree with you, Dan. The man is a shooting star right now. There's no way he's going to do it a TV show, not at all.
Yeah.
And certainly not one that's going to be streaming. You know what I mean?
Yes. But I was going to say Brad Winderbaum, the head of Marvel Television now, he has said, like, and even Kevin Feige has said that their new approach with TV series is not to make it so that these TV shows are must watch or that these TV shows are in the same scale as the movies. I think they initially started out wanting to make them complementary, but now I think with Captain America 4, a lot of the reshoots were done so that the movie felt it was more standalone, that you didn't have to watch a ton of things to go see it. And I kind of felt that watching it. And similarly, I think with Nova, they would have tried to do the same, even though it's no longer currently in development.
And again, if that's the plan, that's fine. If like again, I like that DC is trying to do that, is trying to really like draw a line in the sand and establish these projects as separate entities. So if Marvel wants to do that, great. If we're never going to see that character, or at least played by the same actor, they could have another iteration of that character show up in the films, then fine, as long as they don't connect it back. Because again, when you spread yourself out like that and you don't make yourself universally available to all audiences, it takes something away from it.
Whoa.
So
okay.
So yeah.
Keep it in your pants. Goddamn. Jeez.
Oh, like you said it like,
here's the thing.
Like the thing. Okay.
Don't compare me to that thing.
Oh, you said that thing? You mean the thing? Anyway.
No, that thing. Michael Chiklis is the real thing. Anyway. But I will say, give it time. Once Lanterns comes out, and if that's a hit, they're going to bring Nova back, because the Nova Corps is essentially Marvel's Green Lantern Corps. So, I mean, Marvel has done that in the past. Oh, you're doing a Batman versus Superman? Well, we're doing a Civil War movie. Oh, you're doing New Gods? Well, we're doing Eternals. Oh, you're doing the Suicide Squad? Well, we're doing Thunderbolts. So, it's been like, there has been some, back and forth a little bit. So I would not be shocked if this was put on the back burner. They wait, Lanterns comes out next year, and then all of a sudden, now we're ready to do a Nova show. So we'll just have to wait for that.
As of right now, they're zagging to DC zigging. So they're going in different directions, which I'm fine with. But John, we're here to also talk about the big season finale of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which just wrapped up its first season. It's already been greenlit for seasons 2 and 3. In fact, they've already been working on season 2 while this was airing. They batched up the episodes. I think that it started off with a 2-episode premiere, then they dropped 3 episodes for 2 weeks in a row, so you got 8 episodes in 3 weeks, and it had a total runtime of 10 episodes. So episodes 9 and 10 dropped yesterday. And Liz, I don't know if you finished the show, but I know that
I did.
Did?
I did.
All right,
sure
perfect.
did.
Then you got.
She finished like
Liz
1 minute before I did.
Yeah.
She literally texted me, I just finished, and then I just finished.
Which is weird because I feel like Liz was way behind you. She caught up and then
I was
went
not.
right ahead
Thank
of
you. I was not. I had the 2 episodes remaining, just like
because
John
the
did.
last
Thank
time I
you very
checked, you were like last week. You were like, oh yeah, I still got like I only watched the first 2 episodes, so I was like, no, that's fine. I'm just saying.
And then I worked overnight, so I stayed up all night watching the show.
Fair enough. So your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man
I come
episode.
prepared to this show, gang.
You
just not on DC
are.
stuff, on Marvel stuff, because
we will be getting to DC.
I did watch Peacemaker and Creature Commandos. Someone called GI Robot.
Well, we're gonna get into DC stuff in a bit,
Someone
but before we do,
Robot.
somebody definitely called GI Robot.
I had to show the sign.
Yes, the sign. If you guys haven't been watching from the beginning of the show, we did allude to it earlier, but your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, now having wrapped up season 1 with episodes 9 and 10 today, I want to get your opinions on this since both of you guys just finished watching it within the last couple of hours, so it's fresh in your minds.
Yeah, boy.
Do you feel like, as it says in the graphic down below, that this is a great addition to a faltering universe? Because the MCU has had a mixed record of late. We've been talking about it with Captain America 4, for example. Especially in animation. So, like, the What If series has been really up and down. So, what are your thoughts on your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, the season finale, episodes 9 and 10?
Marvel lady, why don't you go first?
I loved the finale. I thought they threw a lot in there. There were a lot of surprises, but literally like every 5 minutes, you're like, oh damn, oh crap, holy good. So I'm like, they have left us, they didn't leave us with like a cliffhanger necessarily, but they left us with a lot of things to process for season 2 coming up, and a lot to look forward to, quite frankly. But yeah, between the character development, they threw a lot of characters that we know at us as well throughout the series, but I just really dug it. I thought the final episode was done really, really well. I'm digging the show. I'm digging the characters. I'm digging the alternate direction these characters are taking, because these are characters that we know, that we have a history with, but it's a different universe. It's a different world. They're doing different things. They connect in different ways. So in that regard, I'm really digging it, because every episode is a surprise for me. So I thought this one was great. And John, you, Mr. Marvel naysayer, you enjoyed it as well.
I did. Here's the thing. I was one of the few that was like, okay, let's see. Because I watched the initial trailer. Apparently I was like the only one excited for this show, because I'm like, I like Spider-Man. Like, that's kind of the constant for me for Marvel. If everything else sucks, like, I have Spider-Man. I'll have my revenge. But anyway, but I like Spider-Man, and I watched it, and I'm like, outside of the clunky animation, which it didn't really get much better. I can't blame them too hard, because
it's like, hit or miss for me. Yeah.
Because here's the thing: it was supposed to be 2D animated. It wasn't supposed. It was supposed to be like specifically like super Steve Ditko style, but then they had to cut corners and make it CGI 3D animated. So that's why it looks so weird. So maybe now that they, realize their budget, they'll maybe do like better stuff in the future, hopefully. But it's like, I can't blame them too hard, because literally, like, during pre-production, their budget got cut. Like, I can't fault them too hard. Like, they have to work with what they have. And Marvel is like refusing to like give them any budget for animation, even though this company was literally fucking built on animation, amazing animation. Like, I just don't get it. Like, that still irks me to this day. But ignoring that, I thought that this is everything I want in a Spider-Man show, and more, maybe more. Because I think these last 2 episodes were fantastic. Overall, the show, it's not perfect, but I would say this is the first great thing I've seen from the MCU in a while. And I loved it, because like, it gets Spider-Man. It feels like these writers know this character, love this character, and wanted to do. I think the best decision was the fact that they weren't tagged, or like they weren't like stuck to the specific 199999 canon, where it was, Tom Holland and all that shit. They're like, let's do our own thing. It's too much. So it's essentially like an elongated What If, and we do see the Watcher in episode 10, which was like, oh god, why are you reminding of this of this crap? But like, overall, like, I liked how like episode 9, we do get a little bit more of the like Lonnie stuff, and for the most part,
Right.
that's capped off in episode 9, which makes episode 10 I feel much better. It's more Spider-Man like at the forefront, which again, I've said this in the past. I didn't hate the Lonnie stuff. I don't and never hated the Lonnie stuff. It just liked this version of Spider-Man and I wanted to see more of him. So
Yeah.
that's just but I understand you gotta have B plots, you gotta like build the world a little bit. You gotta build these characters that we're never going to see in the MCU. So like let's build them up a bit, and that's great. So I think we're getting a lot of like really great stuff in the future. We're like that shot of Spider-Man saving Nico in episode 9. I'm like, that's Spider-Man. That's fucking Spider-Man. Like him in the classic suit and just like saving his friend despite them being in a fight. That's fucking that is what I fucking wanted in the first 2 goddamn movies of that fucking franchise, but didn't get. And that right there, that was one of the many moments, but that was like the moment that I'm like, this guy is Spider-Man. Like that, like I knew he was Spider, like I know he's Spider-Man. Obviously he's Spider-Man. He's a great Spider-Man. But that was like really just like hit like we were getting batting singles, doubles, and triples, but that was a grand slam moment.
Yeah.
That was like everything paid off right there. We got him. We have him. Like we got the shitty like proto suit. We got the future Foundation suit. Now we have the fucking classic blue and red. It's just like such a fucking great moment. I think the Scorpion fight got a little repetitive. Like it felt like a bad horror movie where it was like the villain gets up again. Like how many times are you going to put this guy down and then he gets up again? Like, calm down. But I liked Lonnie being like I feel like it was they kind of pulled it out of their ass to make Tombstone Lonnie the head of the 1/10. Don is just like a pussy and just like I'm out of here, bye, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Now Lonnie's the head.
I mean, not necessarily surprising, but yeah.
But like I understand what they're going for. I just wish there was a little bit more basis for that, because that is mirroring like the idea of like a guy who's clearly not a strong leader. Like he gets out when things get really tough. So I get that. I get what they were doing, but it just felt like I feel like there should have been a slightly more build up to that resolution of him just yeeting the fuck out of there. Hi, Lenny. Just him yeeting the fuck out of there in because Tombstone is going to take over the 1/10 and be more of his, persona. He's going to get the gas and all that shit. And I thought that was done pretty well. I like a lot of great, like I liked the action. I like the Scorpion of him going down multiple times was a little annoying after a while.
Right.
But yes, they do have a bunch of the, I think they didn't have all 4. They just had 3 of them. But I really
I will say, going back to, no offense to Benedict Cumberbatch, but I love this Doctor Strange. I think I like him better than
oh yeah, so do I. He feels straight out of the I love the suit way more. Like I love this is like, again, this is straight up Ditko. Very like, if you don't know if this is Ditko, it's heavily Ditko inspired and it just looks great. Because I feel like what they really got with this Strange, I don't know who voices him. Somebody look that up. But because like Benedict Cumberbatch, it's just, he's a bit too Tony Stark for my liking, like he just kind of feels like Diet Stark at points. And here he feels like more like Doctor Strange. Like he feels like his own character. Like he's clearly like even he when he said a joke, even he eye rolled. He's like, oh, I can't believe I fucking said that. Like I like that because he's like he's his own character. He's not just. And that's what I kind of feel sometimes that the MCU is like everybody has to be like Iron Man, which is, I think, a kind of a fault with the MCU a little bit. like everyone has to make jokes like him, everyone has to act like him. It's like that makes it less special for me. But this Doctor Strange, I feel like it feels like it has all of the like Tony Stark isms kind of shut out of it, and he feels more like his own character, and I really like that.
And he's voiced by Robin Atkinson.
Robin Atkinson, great. Oh,
yes.
Voice acting legend. Of course, he's great. So yeah, awesome. And I like the mustache. Like again, I love his look. It's just so retro, and it's just so great. And again, this is just like doubling down on what I wanted to see from the Tom Holland Spider-Man, but didn't get until No Way Home.
Right.
That I wanted to see him, you know, just like complete, like realizing who he is. And I like how Lonnie, of all people, a guy who is inevitably going to be a villain, is the one to like bring him back down to reality when he's about to. I like how they redid the No Way Home moment of him almost killing Green Goblin, with this point almost killing Scorpion in the same way, taking his own gadget and almost killing him with it. Because it's showcasing that this version of Spider-Man has like kind of like this angry energy, like very deep down. And the problem is with Norman Osborn, he's going to unleash that anger because he's a bad guy. Of course, he wants to use Spider-Man for his own personal gain.
Well, and he's got this interesting backstory that we're not familiar with, as revealed in the final episode as well, when May goes to visit his father in prison. So that'll come into play eventually as well.
Oh yeah,
so
that's gonna.
I'm looking forward to season 2. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, I think I'm super stoked for it, and I like how they're setting all this stuff. They're kind of doing a Parker Industries thing.
Yeah.
And if anybody who's watching and doesn't know, the Parker Industries arc was like Peter Parker actually like selling his inventions and getting rich from it, but like him being like a CEO of his own company. It's less like that because I don't know if Web is something in the comics, but it's kind of reminds me of Parker Industries a little bit. So they're doing that. Amadeus Cho is still staying at Oscorp, and since Oscorp is doing gamma radiation stuff, they might be setting up Amadeus Cho being the Hulk in the show. That could work, maybe. They have, our boy Charlie Cox coming in as Daredevil. Like there was like revealing that Jean was a plant by him, and I liked that. Because I was reading up on all these characters. I'm like, because I knew who Amadeus Cho was. I didn't know who the Wakandan chick was, and I didn't know who Jean was. But exactly. Thank you, Lenny. And I think, and I'm like, oh, she's a superhero chick. I'm like, okay, cool. And then Dr. Whitman is a villain he's like a Fantastic Four villain, I think. And I liked how they brought that in there. So what? So I liked that. And I like, what else was set up? They had the Richard Parker thing, as you mentioned. There was like a million things set up. Like, feel free to chime in because there was like so much shit that they set up.
I mean, I think you covered pretty much.
And then, the Venom symbiote. How can I fucking forget that about the goddamn Venom symbiote? The paradox. Yeah. Yes, that was the other thing. How they made the Spider-Bite a bootstrap paradox. I thought that was really interesting.
Well, and Nico too. Finding out there's more going on with Nico as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I knew that because I knew of the character from Runaways. She's a witch, and she has like witch dark mystic. She's kind of like Raven in a way. But okay, that's interesting. But I never watched the Ultimate version. I didn't read it. I just know of it. I just am aware of it. But yeah, I really liked how they were like, how they were introducing Strange into that episode, and they were like, "What are you talking about? I never went to Midtown. What are you doing? What are you saying? Like, I've never done that." And
that was when that part happened, I was like, hold on a minute.
And I was like, because here's the thing. I noticed in the beginning it was green, and that's the eye of Ayamoto, I think it was green because of like the time stone was green.
Yep.
So I'm like, that's interesting. And when he said that, I'm like, oh, and it clicked that they're like, oh, they're time traveling. So I like how they essentially, I mean, if anybody here doesn't know what a bootstrap paradox is, it's essentially where something has no origin because of time travel. How essentially Peter gets bit by the spider, the radioactive spider, but it's revealed it's through this portal But it's then revealed later on that after the spider bite, Norman was experimenting with radioactive spiders, and in episode 10, it's revealed that, or 9 or 10, I forget which one, where he uses Peter's blood. We've been spoiling shit this entire time. I don't think you need to put up the spoiler warning. But they inject the spider with Peter's blood. And so then it's revealed that spider went through the portal. So it's like, where did the blood come from? Because technically they always got Peter's blood and it has no origin. I kind of like that. I think that's kind of cool. I understand people are a little bit upset that it was because of Doctor Strange and all that he got the spider. I was like, clearly there's something more, because they introduced that, like, we're not supposed, he even said in the initial episode, hey, we're not supposed to be here, what's going on? Right. And then, and then I loved how Doctor Strange, he can be cocky and he can be, a little bit of an ass, a little bit on his high horse. Again, not as much as Tony Stark is, like, the Cumberbatch is. But I liked how, you had Doctor Strange, like, having this very human moment of looking at Midtown High and just being like not just in a time travel sort of way, like, oh, time travel's a fickle mistress, so, like, obviously, but him being like, this it wasn't supposed to happen, like, people were affected because of me. And that was a great fucking moment that you don't get in MCU movies anymore. You don't get those, like, human moments from superheroes who are like, this actually genuinely affects people and I'm affecting the populace by doing all of this. Like, I feel like we got a lot of those in the Joss Whedon Avengers movies. We got that with
Captain America this past film, but okay.
But I think it's just like a really, really great, like, moment. And and I've just been saying this, I love this version of Peter, like this from the beginning of when this specific Peter was introduced, he has always felt like Spider-Man, while Tom Holland only started to feel like Spider-Man like midway through No Way Home. So I love Coleman Domingo's Norman Osborn. I love how he threads the line of, like, almost could be a decent guy, but he's a fucking piece of shit. I like this Harry Osborn. I like Nico Minoru. I like all this stuff. The only thing that's even the animation isn't terrible. Like, sometimes it has, like, really good moments. The fight scenes, I think, are really good. I think the Daredevil one is the best. And that's not just me being a Daredevil fan. I just think it was a genuinely, like, they were using their, like, reflexes and their heightened senses against each other. And I think that was done very well. So, and the end, honestly, the only bad thing I can think of from, like, truly horrible is the fact that Ned Leeds was mentioned on that chalkboard at the end. That's the only thing, the promise of Ned Leeds in the future. But outside of that, everything else, like, you saw Max Dillon, like, oh, we might get Electro in the future. I thought Scorpion was a really good formidable villain. Oh, Otto Octavius, we get the arms. We're going to be getting the arms. We're going to be getting. I also love how they kept his sunglasses on in prison. Just like, that's a very comic booky thing to have. I love that. And like, I just, like, it's not perfect. I would give, like, an 8.5 maybe. It's not, like, amazing. It's probably not amazing as spectacular. I haven't watched it in, like, 10 years, so I don't know how amazing that still is. I'm sure it's fucking still the greatest thing since sliced bread. But I still really liked this first season. I think it gets Spider-Man, considering we're kind of, because of fucking whole bunch of studio politics, we're not getting Spider-Man in animation properly. We still got to wait another fucking 5 years for Beyond the Spider-Verse. So I think this is a nice, like, I wouldn't say like a nice, like, wait, like, oh, this will fill the space for that. I'm just saying this is another great, like, oh my God, like, this isn't like a piece of shit or anything. Oh, we just got to wait for, Beyond. No, this is like a genuinely great, like, I wouldn't mind watching this. I wouldn't mind watching another season. I wouldn't mind watching 3 seasons of this. And considering that fact that 3 seasons are essentially greenlit, I'm stoked. This is like, I'm not saying I'm going to be brought back to Marvel and I'm going to be watching every project from here on out. and I love Hugh Dancy as Otto, by the way. I think like
Yeah.
I'm still shocked that's voiced by Hugh Dancy.
Yeah.
I was like, oh fuck. Yeah, that's him. I keep forgetting because he's just so good. I always liked Marvel. I just fucking hate what the MCU is doing. I love Marvel, okay? I love Marvel. I love DC. I'm not going to suck its dick constantly. But I love what this is doing. I think this is a great show. I can't wait for the future. I hope Daredevil Born Again is this good. And I told y'all. I fucking told all y'all, and I said it was great. It's gonna be great. And you know what? I was proven right. Fuck you. All the people, oh, this trailer sucks. I'm like, this trailer's pretty good. Let's see. And you know what? It's fucking great. Suck it. Be kind, rewind.
Alrighty then. Anyway.
All right. Well, anything else to add there? I feel like we have done a thorough job of covering the series, the season, not the series, I guess, unless you're British, the first series, but it is the season finale. The first season of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man has now come to a close. So do let us know in the comments down below what you thought about it. John loved it. Liz liked it. And we are excited for the next 2 seasons. Season 2 has already been worked on. Season 3 is greenlit. The head of Marvel Television, Brad Vanderbaum, as late as a few weeks ago, was going to pitch meetings for season 3 stories. So they're working on this, pretty far ahead. So
yeah,
let us know what you thought about
barely
the show.
an inconvenience. Sorry, I had to do it with pitch meetings being mentioned.
Totally. But hit the subscribe button if you're new. If you guys are watching and you haven't hit the like button, please help us out and hit that like button while you're at it.